Welcome, I am Pius Kojo Baka. Let's now look at our stories. And the African Development Bank says it expects the government to remain committed to the reforms in the budget statement to address the current economic challenges. This comes after it signed a $102 million budget support deal with the Ministry of Finance. According to its country manager, Petroleum, the bank will continue to partner with the government in various sectors to ensure stability. She was speaking at the signing ceremony.
Honorable Deputy Minister, currently the bank's group active country portfolio consists of about 20 operations. We have 15 public sector operations and 5 private sector operations, with a total commitment of about $726 million across various sectors. Transport accounts for the largest, followed by agriculture sector. The portfolio also involves projects in economic governance, energy sector, water and sanitation, and human capital development. These ongoing projects, in addition to the budget support program we are signing today, would support government's recovery and development efforts and contribute to the bank's high five dimensions in Ghana. So we will light up and power Ghana, feed Ghana, industrialize Ghana, integrate Ghana, and improve the quality of the life of Ghanaians. Honorable Deputy Minister, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are confident that the government will remain committed to the reforms identified in the program as to take full advantage of it to address the current difficult economic conditions faced by the country. In conclusion, allow me, Honorable Deputy Minister, to seize this opportunity to reaffirm the commitment and the availability of the African Development Bank Group once again in supporting the efforts of the government and the people of Ghana in addressing the country's recovery efforts and development.
Meanwhile, the 2024 budget will be in line with the fiscal program and measures that government has agreed with the International Monetary Fund. Here is George Yafe with more.
The development could mean that the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, may come up with programs aimed at mobilizing more revenue whilst improving public efficiency in spending. However, it is not clear for now what mobilization of more revenue would actually mean. That is, whether the Finance Minister will be focusing on efficiency in collections or reviewing the tax rates. The Minister will also be pursuing initiatives that will bring the debt stock in line with what the government has agreed with the IMF so that it will reach that sustainable level by 2028. The budget will also look at how to address some of the weaknesses in the energy sector. Financial stability will also be a critical area for government going into next year, as the minister will announce some fresh measures to help bring inflation down with support from the Bank of Ghana. Joy Business understands that some final touches are being put to the document, with the necessary briefings taking place at the economic management team level, and later there will be an engagement at Cabinet before the actual presentation next week. But for many, they'll be looking out for how government will be planning to contain expenditure, especially in an election year.
All right, so let's stay a while longer on budget-related stories and engage the perspective of economist Professor Lord Mensah for more on this. Thanks so much, sir, for joining me on Business Live. Already, we are gathering that the budget will be in line with the fiscal program and measures that the government has agreed with the International Monetary Fund, as rightly narrated by my colleague George Yafe. It's a few days to the presentation. Are you also learning same?
Yeah, good evening to our viewers. I can tell you that, you see, the situation Ghana finds itself in, we need a budget that will strike a balance between fiscal responsibility that, the IMF requires of us, and then also the excesses that, election year comes with. We know very well that when it gets to election year, overspending is a problem. So from where I sit, yes, I expect government to, as part of the fiscal responsibility, structures that we've adopted with the IMF, to introduce some taxes and to increase, revenue here and there. Because, looking at the economic structure as we speak now, government cannot invest anymore into informal, revenue generation, and as we speak. So I can tell you that yes, we need a budget that is going to strike a balance between election year spending and then fiscal responsibility, as required by the IMF.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I heard you say that we are likely to see introduction of new taxes as a way of, improving the revenue measures. Businesses are kicking against that. So how is that going to play out? Already they say they've tabled their concerns to the finance ministry, and you're saying that we are likely to see taxes being introduced.
Yeah, the problem is that, we've gotten agitations, and we all understand, that there seems to be that kind of tax fatigue in the economy, a situation where, businesses are going down as a result of, tax being increased, and the way taxes are feeding into prices, prices not being able to come down, keeping inflation high. These are all things that needs to be taken into consideration. And I can tell you that the finance minister has no option than, bring in, some new taxes or repackage, some taxes to, generate the necessary revenue that is required. But then also, we should also appreciate that there could be some shocks as we're going into the 2024. Remember, we've missed the deadline for the second tranche of the IMF, money that's supposed to be released to us. These are all some of the, shocks that are likely to be expected. And I'm expecting the finance minister to provide kind of contingency to some of these shocks in case, we are not able to rake in as expected. But I can tell you that, there will be possibility of new taxes.
If businesses are watching now, I'm pretty sure they would be happy, and especially hearing that from you. But how should they go about their operations, knowing very well that in the coming days we are likely to see introduction of taxes, as you rightly mentioned? That is, if it is anything to go by, how should they be coping or preparing themselves ahead of that?
Well, I'm not the one projecting. It's the IMF program that we find ourselves in, and the target we've given to ourselves. Government is supposed to, increase our tax revenue up to a certain point, a certain percentage of our total revenue. But then we ask ourselves questions, as in the past, what investment has government made, to expand the tax net? We haven't seen much in that line. So therefore, the existing structures of tax handles are the ones that, government is likely to rely on to, rake in the necessary revenue. And that is why I'm expecting that, there could be, introduction of one or two taxes to cover up those revenue, targets that government has set for us.
And you think we are not likely to see a review or some taxes being scrapped?
I don't think so. Even if it's scrapped at one end, it's likely to be introduced at another end. So it will be more or less like a zero-sum game. At the point, we'll give a cushioning to businesses, but we may end up paying it from our daily consumptions, like fuel prices going up, fuel taxes being introduced here and there.
That then means that prices will definitely, of goods and services, will go up.
That is how I see it. And that is why I'm saying that, we need a budget that will strike the balance between being, fiscally responsible and at the same time should be able to, absorb the election spending excesses that we anticipate in 2024.
Professor Mensah, just yesterday we reported about Ghana likely to secure more funding from the IMF after the board of the fund approved a proposal to increase member quota by 50%. Help us understand how this will translate to the economic transformation we're looking for.
The membership quota does not necessarily mean or build up into, more money coming from the IMF. It has to do with our contributions that we make with the IMF. Every country contributes into the fund, but we may have to understand that over the past years, there seem to be, more countries, applying for this IMF fund, which makes, the fund itself, at risk. And so as a result of that, the fund called for membership to increase their quota in a way to shore up, the capital base of the fund. So it's not necessarily money that is, likely to come to Ghana.
Very well. We are indeed grateful, Professor Mensah, for your time here on Business Live. You're still watching Business Live. We'll continue with the rest of our stories. And founder for the Accra Business School, Bishop Gideon Titi Ofer, is making a strong case for the government to be heavy on investments for women, small and medium-scale enterprises. A report by the World Bank indicates women-led SMEs constitute about 50% of all small and medium enterprises in Ghana, a figure that underscores their economic importance. Now, according to him, the government's quest to support the private sector in the 2024 budget should have policies to support these women-led businesses. Bishop Titi Ofer spoke to Joy Business at a press briefing on the Ladies in Leadership Awards.
Access to finance is a very difficult thing for every business in this country. It's not exclusively difficult just for women, but also for other people doing other businesses. And our recent conditions in the country has even worsened having access to finance. Even if you get access to finance, it's quite very expensive. The first way to tackle it is to look at how our economy can grow. I think that government should come out with policies that can support women in this sector. And I mean, government has no business in business, but government has a say in business. And one way in which government's voice can be heard in business is to be able to provide financial support for women who are braving the storm and are initiating entrepreneurial ventures and creating jobs, increasing incomes, and reducing poverty. These women need to be helped. Lila, as we call it, Ladies in Leadership Awards, Lila is going to run every year, recognizing women from various fields of endeavor, putting them at the forefront of business and equipping them to continue to lead. There are a number of women across various fields who are doing very well across Africa, but they are not celebrated.
You're still watching Business Live. We've got more stories for you after this break. Hello, welcome back to the program. The Ghana National Petroleum Corporation is expected to begin first drilling of the Voltairean Basin petroleum products, which has been on the table for some time now. According to the Manager of Exploration and Appraisal at GNPC, Michael Aite, all is set for drilling to begin next year. He made the disclosure in an interview at this year's Offshore Summit in Accra. Here's more. Exploration for the Voltairean Basin is on course and is expected to begin in the second quarter of 2024 as the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation GNPC identified a key location to begin its well drilling. Speaking to journalists after addressing stakeholders at the Offshore Africa Energy Summit in Accra, Manager in charge of Exploration and Appraisal at GNPC, Michael Aite, disclosed that procurement processes will be open to all Ghanaian oil and gas companies to participate in the drilling process. He believes that all the data gathered by the corporation will support the search for the natural resource at the field.
Voltaire, because it's a frontier, the probability of success is lower. But we have seen indications that there is a possibility that oil has been generated. And that's why we are going ahead with the drilling.
So you don't have a working system,
No, there are indications that there is a working system. But what you don't know, it's the quantity. You don't know that yet because what we have is 2D data. But we need well information to help us do a better job. GNPC works under the Public Procurement Act. So we are going to follow it to the letter. Over the years, that's what we have done. So locals that are registered with the Petroleum Commission and not the permit to participate, they are allowed to participate fully. And unlike other companies, we will present it in such a way that it is unbundled so that Ghanaians can have full participation in the procurement process. It will be put in the national dailies so everybody will know once we start the process.
The summit focused on energy transition and the various policies implemented by government to achieve net zero as agreed at the COP28. Here is Editor-in-Chief of Offshore Africa, organizers of the event, Gilbert Da Costa.
The energy transition is the main issue in the industry right now. Everybody's talking about it. I think in Africa, we don't even get to talk about it as it's done elsewhere. When you go to international meetings and conferences, the focus completely is on energy transition. What steps are being taken to ensure that the country or the world generally is compliant with the trend towards net zero? But I think in Africa we have a major challenge. We have energy poverty. We have a lot of challenges, and oil and gas, for example, represents a good way for the economies to pick up. I mean, we have oil and gas resources in Africa. We cannot just ignore that.
The expected drilling of the exploration for the Voltian Basin will be conducted onshore. And Brent crude oil is expected to average $86 per barrel in 2024. That's according to the African Energy Chamber. This is due to a stronger demand outlook tightening next year's global balances. We've got more for you in this report.
In its 2024 State of African Energy, it said the estimated Brent crude base for Q4 2023 is $87 per barrel. Presently, crude oil is hovering around $83 per barrel. If this trend is to continue and the cedi remains stable against the US dollar, prices of petroleum products will not change much at the pumps. The African Energy Chamber also said while the Chinese macroeconomic situation should be closely monitored, at this point, the Brent crude outlook remains cautiously optimistic. Moreover, the current negative macroeconomic sentiment could partially be mitigated by an additional extension of Saudi Arabia's voluntary cut. It said the outlook for the rest of the year suggests that upside price pressure will not recede as the forecast for global balances points towards a significant deficit in the market.
And more within the space, Ghana is ranked 5th in Africa with highest offshore oil rig demand, indicating significant oil and natural gas reserves. That's according to the 2024 State of African Energy by the African Energy Chamber. The country overtook Libya to the 5th position. Here's more.
An offshore rig demand is made of oil reserves, contingent resources, and exploration. It is a large structure all in water with facilities to drill wells, extract and process oil and natural gas. According to the African Chamber, Ghana's offshore rig demand shot up over that of 2022. This shows that the nation has some significant oil and natural gas reserves. The report also stressed that Ghana and 4 other African countries ran off the top 5 countries with the highest percentage of contingent resources. This implies that rig demand in this particular area is sensitive to expected investment decisions. Ghana presently holds about 660 million barrels of proven oil reserves. Breaking down cumulative offshore rig demand from 2020 to 2030 per country reveals Egypt as the most active country with about 123 rig years, followed by Angola and Nigeria. Meanwhile, the number of wells drilled on the African continent is estimated to increase to 967 in 2023, a 6% year-on-year growth.
And the National Petroleum Authority has said reinforcement or enforcement of the EI 378 is expected to start by the end of the first quarter of this year. My colleague Precious Emevo reports.
An offshore rig demand is made of oil reserves, contingent resources, and exploration. It is a large structure all in.
Dare to Share Knowledge Consortium is a new platform offering a space for evidence and perspectives on just transitions, bringing together diverse stakeholders including policymakers and civil society representatives. Resident Coordinator of the United Nations in Ghana, Charles Abani, says a comprehensive and an inclusive approach is needed to achieve a lower carbon future.
And so actually this platform is really important to understand all the dynamic moving parts that will enable Ghana to achieve this. The UN...
The National Petroleum Authority's media engagement in Sunyani helped to explain some operational issues of the authority in the Bono East and Ahafo regions, despite the authority's improved operational and safety standards at the retail outlet, among other successes. illegal importation of petroleum products along border towns like Doma, Drobo, and Sampa, and the illegal resale of fuel on tabletops remains a challenge that requires the assistance of the security agencies to help curb. Regional Manager Kwejo Apia Odano said that Tebubu, Pro, and Sene districts remain prone to attacks and appealed to the security to step up efforts to make their inspections easy.
The way we can freely inspect stations in Sunyani, wake up anytime and go to any station, we cannot do so on that route. We would have wished that that route was free from armed robbery attacks, but that notwithstanding, we continue to carry out our mandate. Every month we go there. We are thankful to the Atebubu Police. They've been giving us support, and we will continue to rely on them. But certainly when they also have logistics challenge, it may also affect the frequency to which we can go into that region. So we will only appeal that they will step up security efforts to rip off that area and make it free.
Legal manager at NPA, Farida Ali Musa, said having been granted prosecutorial powers by the AG, they are determined to ensure the laws regulating the downstream petroleum activities are adhered to, hence the enforcement of the instrument next year.
So if you engage in any activity in the downstream industry, it means you are violating the provisions of the NPA Act, and that you will be prosecuted for it. Aside that, we have where people also interfere in the activities of the officers when they go to the filling stations or the LPGMC stations to conduct their official duties. If you are found guilty of such an offense, you can be behind bars for, the minimum imprisonment is 2 years, and then some of them, their maximum is 10 years, 15 years. We want to look at, find a way to clear all the backlogs or clear all hurdles before us so that we can start the prosecution.
Precious Semevo, Joy Business, Sunyai.
And before we go, let's quickly dash to the My Joy online portal /business, where we have great stories lined up for you. High cost of borrowing to make it harder for government to service debts. That's according to EIU. Also on that portal, you see City's outlook hinges on cocoa syndication loan. That's according to an IMF report there. Got great stories on that portal for you. Just go there and read what you need to know. And that's it for the bulletin. I am Pius Kojo Baka. Let's do the same time tomorrow. Do enjoy the rest of our programs. See you. Bye.